Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Surprise, surprise, a Saturday upload, something a little bit different for the channel. Today we're talking about the Call of Duty Modern Warfare Alpha, which I played about 2 hours live on my Twitch channel. You're watching some of that gameplay in the background right now, and then an hour offline with my boy, so I've had some time with this alpha. And originally I wasn't going to make a video on this, but the reason I am now is because I've seen a lot of creators come out with some super strong positive takes, like it's going to turn the series around, this is the best one yet, this is crazy good. And they're entitled to their own opinion, but I thought since I have a really experienced eye for the franchise, I've played competitively for years, I put 150 hours into Black Ops 4, that I could offer you guys some experienced insight on where the series is heading and tell you guys what I feel overall about this alpha. So first, some details on the alpha. It is a 2v2 mode, and that is it. It drops you in a small map with a random class, so you don't do that create a class. You're given maybe an LMG with an ACOG or an MP5 with a red dot. Who knows? Every life is different. And there isn't any health regeneration, only if you spawn with a class with a stim on you. So that's important to note because it's always changing, and that means you get your hands on a lot of different guns so you can get a good feel for what you like and what you don't like. And overall, I thought that was smart for the alpha's sake, so people can get familiar with everything in the game, even if you used what my friends and I call woke guns. Like I said, a LMG with an ACOG, not something you will usually see, but this game throws it in your hands anyway. So pretty much, I stand sort of in the middle on the Modern Warfare Alpha. A lot of my excitement is reserved for the campaign, but what I played from the multiplayer, I wasn't as excited about, because here's the thing, is you have a framework in place for Call of Duty multiplayer to accommodate a ton of different play styles and modes. Right now we have this 2v2 mode which we're testing out, we have your standard multiplayer with 6v6, and then you also have this huge 64 player battle that's going to be in the game too. So what happens is when you have that framework of modes, you need mechanics underneath it to support each of those modes properly. And what happens is you'll see mechanics work better for certain modes, and those mechanics being movement speed, ADS timing, aim down sights if you don't know that, time to kill. All those things play a huge factor in Call of Duty, which has notoriously been a go, go, go franchise, and everyone dies in at least 3 bullets. That's how it's always been. And so when you see Modern Warfare Alpha really slowing things down, it is a nice change of pace. You're like, wow, I get to post up, I get to hang out, wait for people. The ADS timing in this game is a lot slower, a lot slower. Now, when you have the MP5 in your hands, for example, a submachine gun, it is a lot quicker, but there isn't that same movement, for example, in Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4, you were always on a slip and slide. Especially if you had a scuff, you'd be sliding everywhere, jump shotting everybody. But when it comes to Modern Warfare, you cannot slide that well. It's a separate animation. You slide once, then you go into crouch, then you go into standing. It's not as smooth, and I think that sort of hurts the experience in one way. But what happens is that this movement and these ADS timings may not work out for the alpha, right? It's a 2v2 mode on a closed-in map, but what happens when you're on a bigger map playing 64 players? Does that change the entire experience? Does it make it a lot better? Do the mechanics work better there? Are those mechanics created with those modes in mind? And that's sort of why I'm in the middle on the game, because I like some of the changes here. I think it's good, for example, that headshot damage does a lot more than in previous Call of Duties, where if you, for example, are shooting at the body and you hit them once in the head, like, they're done. That's it. Headshot, dead. And that's something that's been prevalent in a lot of shooters like Siege, and I also think of Battlefield having great headshot damage, but Call of Duty's always still been like, shoot them 3 times in the head, shoot them 2 times in the head, and then they'll die. But now it's, if you hit them in the head with something, you will insta-kill them, and I think that's really good for the series. But on the other hand, what's happening is you have the DNA and some of the gunplay of a rush, rush, rush in a lot of situations that encourage you to camp. And so what's happening is I feel the mechanics are constantly pulling at each other, and there isn't this chemistry within them. And so that's why I really struggled to enjoy it. Now, there's an adjustment period, of course, but I'd say after 3 hours you get used to things, but there was always this awkward feeling, and I feel that Modern Warfare, in its exchange for slowing the pace down, changing how the movement is, changing how the gunplay is with ADS timing, which, mind you, this also doesn't incorporate perks, so if there is a perk that does boost your ADS timing, that may change a lot of my opinions, but it slows things down dramatically, which is good for a lot of people because a lot of people thought Call of Duty was too bang, bang, bang. But I personally thought that last Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, was well paced. I liked how it was designed. With it slowing down here, still posting you up on these 2v2 maps where it is close quarter gunfights and you have to be quick on your toes, it felt a little awkward. It definitely felt a little awkward. And like I said, not the worst thing in the world, but what stinks here is that I can't tell if these are going to be mechanics that end up feeling better in a 4v4 search and destroy match, or is it going to feel just right in 6v6, or will it feel even better on bigger maps? Because when you're on those bigger maps with 64 players, you can post up and really determine where you want to take the battle, because that's what I did in Battlefield. These maps were gigantic, and I'd pick like one little quadrant of the map and I'd post up around there and sort of monitor it, and it's like everyone's doing their parts all over the map and you're maintaining map control at that point. And that's something that would be really interesting to see in Call of Duty. But even Battlefield, at least with my experience in, we'll say 3, 4, I haven't played some of the recent ones, but the time to kill in those games was a little bit longer, where I felt the framework for Battlefield works a lot better than supposedly what we're seeing with Call of Duty, where if you have these big maps but this quick time to kill, it's going to be strange. But there is a lot of damage drop off. For example, if you have a normal pistol, there is that drop off if you start shooting them across the map, which is something that's always been prevalent in Call of Duty. But overall, I just didn't find anything worth falling in love with here in the alpha. I mean, you saw a lot of inspiration from other FPSs, which I think is good to see that Call of Duty's looking around at their competition. That's something that we haven't seen in them in a while. And by that, I'm saying you can lean in this game. And leaning is something that's never been in Call of Duty, but we see it, for example, in Rainbow Six Siege, and that's a really big part of that. Now, as someone who loves search and destroy, and that's where I play competitively, leaning can be a really big factor in a lot of deaths, so I will reserve my opinion on that one. But overall, what I'd like to see improve is the movement. There is this jank to it, and by that I mean the sliding doesn't feel just right. It doesn't feel like you're on a slip and slide like it has in previous Call of Duties, which is why I think it's a little strange. If that's the way they're going though, I can adjust to that, but right now it doesn't feel right based off the mode I'm playing. Maybe this movement works better in bigger maps, but when it comes to CQC, it suddenly feels really off. I feel uncomfortable when I'm in a close-up gunfight with someone, and that's a way I've never felt in Call of Duty. And maybe it's because, for example, when I got an MP5 in my hand, if you guys watched the stream, some of you did last night, whenever my friend and I got the MP5 in hand, we said, oh, it's over. And we'd always just wax whoever we were playing when we had the MP5 or like the M4A1, because those were typical Call of Duty guns. They definitely felt the best in the entire alpha. And admittedly, I had some rust. I hadn't played since, I'd say, about January or December. But it still doesn't change the fact that something consistently felt off. And I think a lot of it just boils down to that movement. I think the movement in this game sort of took a bit of a hurt, where it's shining worse when it's in close quarters combat. I think everything else feels really good when you're in those ranged gunfights, but when it comes to CQC, it just felt weird. It felt really weird. But like I said, this is a mode that I can promise you when I get the full game, I will never touch. And I think part of Infinity Ward's strategy is let's give them something they'll probably not give a chance, because, you know, Team Deathmatch, for example, is always the most played playlist in every Call of Duty mode. So give them, like, you know, people want access to the game in general. People get excited over the alpha. Give them the mode that they probably wouldn't touch anyway, and see how many people you can get to give it a chance and get them excited about something new, which is also good. But overall, this mode didn't offer me any intensity. My friend and I were just sort of memeing the whole time while we were playing with the Twitch chat, so it didn't grab us as tightly as I think maybe Infinity Ward would have wanted. But overall, the time to kill is solid. The CQC combat isn't that great. The movement feels a little sluggish. Also, settings wise, huge issue. It has motion blur, it has world blur, it has film grain that resets every match, so you have to turn that off. And also, on top of all that, when you get low on health, your screen turns black and white, and you easily lose enemies that way. Easily. It becomes incredibly hard to find out where they are. All you need to do, get rid of that and put the red around the screen like I'm bleeding, and just let me know my health's low, because holy smokes, guys. I'm not even kidding. The amount of times I died trying to find someone when the screen went black and white, just my eyes could not adjust. It was really, really strange. And obviously, I always think with every Call of Duty, they use a unique color palette and they have a different art style, and you have to have your eyes adjust to that. So spotting enemies in different places and knowing where to look, you know, having your brain tell you, like, this is a hot spot, this is where someone usually camps. That's stuff that adjusts over time with experience. But when it comes to the screen turning black and white, the amount of times I lost people, oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. So there's room for improvement here. By all means, there is a lot of room for improvement here. I would not let anyone try to tell you this is absolutely the game changer, because quite honestly, it's good they're changing. Don't get me wrong. You guys know I have been advocating for that. I have absolutely been advocating for change, and they are changing in the right ways. But right now, those changes aren't working in the confines of a 2v2 close quarters map. Now, in a standard map, when we play the beta in September, obviously I'll have updated impressions. We'll see. But right now, I would say just, you know, keep your eyes open. It's not like Call of Duty suddenly changed and it's a million times better right now. I think a lot of us, especially those of you on my channel, care a lot more about the Call of Duty campaign. But when it comes to the alpha, man, I was not impressed. It did not feel good to play. It felt very slow. I don't like to camp. I don't play Call of Duty to camp. I never played Call of Duty to camp, and Call of Duty has never been a game created to camp. Okay? So I appreciate their attempts to slow it down, and it will work. I believe it will work, rather. But it's just got to be on the right maps. And that's why I reserve my opinion a little bit when it comes to the beta. That's where I'll really make a hard call and be like, this is good or this is bad. But right now, I just say, proceed with a little bit of caution, because I've seen a lot of people selling it high, and I'm glad people are enjoying it, and I never want to take away from that. And if you enjoyed it, I understand, I respect it, but I just want to make sure you guys out there are informed on how I'm feeling about it as someone who's had a lot of experience with the franchise. But if you're enjoying it, more power to you. I just wanted to leave you with my thoughts, because I've seen a lot of strong opinions out there, and it encouraged me to share mine. So that'll do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. That has been my opinion on the Call of Duty Modern Warfare Alpha. If you have any additional thoughts you'd like to add, how you feel about the Modern Warfare Alpha, fire away in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.